It's time now for a look at some of the day's business news. And, well, with France 24's Cole Stangler, who joins us here. Cole, you're going to start, first of all, looking at turbulence on Wall Street. Brokers seek to limit trading in a handful of stocks that saw some massive gains last week.
That's right, Eve. Those gains, of course, driven in part by retail investors, some of them discussing their plans on social media. One of the biggest platforms those investors have used says it's keeping its limits in place to rein in trading. That's the app known as Robinhood. It says 8 companies will continue to face restrictions. That's down from 50 stocks last week. Still, investors using Robinhood will be able to buy just one share of GameStop, the video game retailer, at the heart of the recent tension that looks set to continue well into this week. Now many of those retailer investors have shifted their attention to silver, and sure enough, the precious metal is seeing some hefty gains. Silver futures now trading at around $29 an ounce. That's up more than actually higher than that, now 10% up on the day as those retail investors pushing that price upward. European markets now also in positive territory to kick off the week. Investors reacting to vaccine maker AstraZeneca's move to increase supplies to the EU. The FTSE up around 0.4%. Stronger gains, meanwhile, on the CAC 40 in Paris and the DAX over in Frankfurt. Asian markets also in positive territory. Kospi with some of the bigger gains there, nearly 3%. Stocks in mainland China also up. That's despite a survey showing manufacturing growth fell slightly for the month of January.
Meanwhile, Cole, low-budget airline Ryanair warning of a record loss.
Yeah, the Irish carrier says the current fiscal year is, quote, the most challenging one yet in its 35-year history. Ryanair projecting a record annual loss of some €1 billion, coming, of course, as the pandemic inflicts heavy damage across the travel sector. That travel bans on the UK hit especially hard around the holiday season for Ryanair, a period that's typically one of its busiest. Ryanair says it does soon hope to benefit from the airline sector's weakened state. On the other hand, with flight capacity reduced over the coming years, the firm said, quote, growth opportunities lie ahead.
In Australia, meanwhile, the government in a high-stakes showdown with big tech.
Yeah, proposed legislation would force Google and Facebook to pay news outlets for sharing links. The firms say that's unworkable, while Google has threatened to back out of Australia entirely if that law moves forward. In that case, Prime Minister Scott Morrison says Microsoft's search engine Bing could step up to the plate. He says he spoke earlier with CEO Satya Nadella, who'd apparently be delighted to fill the gap.
Microsoft's pretty confident. Look, these are big technology companies. And what's important to Australia, I think, is that we set the rules that are right for our people. And having a news environment in this country that is one that is sustainable and is supported commercially, then this is vital to how democracies function.
And finally, a call for this business update. We're taking a look at the French government sitting down with trade unions to talk about this issue of working remotely.
Yeah, it was one of the key messages from the Prime Minister on Friday. Jean Castex said wherever possible, telecommuting should be, quote, reinforced. Catherine Viette takes a closer look at the issue.
It's been a priority for the French government, encouraging companies to let their employees work from home as part of broader efforts to curb the spread of the coronavirus. On Friday, the Prime Minister once again pushed for more telecommuting.
Toutes les entreprises où cela est possible, le recours effectif au télétravail devra être renforcé.
Before the first lockdown in March 2020, the French were not used to working from home. Only 8% of French companies had some type of remote working in place. During the lockdowns, however, telecommuting has boomed, only to drop again with the end of the restrictions. According to France's Labor Ministry, the number of employees working remotely fell some 15% between last November and January. While there are obvious advantages to working from home, such as more flexibility and savings on transport costs, there are downsides too. Labor unions and employee organizations are concerned about mental health issues linked to isolation. They've been behind the push to allow workers the right to come to the office at least one day a week. And of course, there are some jobs that can't be done remotely. People who work in the service sector, for example, such as sales clerks, waitstaff, bus drivers, and so on, must go in to work.